Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So it has been a while since I uploaded any Alliance Quest videos, but I decided to upload this one even though I didn't really manage to take any mini boss or boss fights. I did bring in Quake specifically for that, in order to take the Sasquatches or to deal with the Doom final boss, but I simply missed out on them. However, the reason why I do want to upload this particular Alliance Quest video is because I used Carnage, and Carnage actually did fantastic, and Carnage is one of my favorite champions to use in general in this game period. I absolutely love that guy, and yeah, it's just enjoyable. And when you get to use a champion that you love playing into a game mode that you have to play kind of like in order to stay competitive, it just works out, and it makes it cooler, easier, I don't know, more fun. So yeah, here we saw that first I brought in Carnage against Ghost. Now that could have been slightly tricky, because if I put 10 bleeds on her and if she phased them into a Fury and lands a hit on me, obviously I would have been toast. But I was trying to be as aggressive as I can to make sure she doesn't actually get to dash back, and she's cornered, and yeah, that worked out. She didn't shrug off my bleeds at all. Now we're going to be up against Hood. Now I do have class disadvantage against the guy, but you can see that still he's doing solid enough of a job. Now Carnage is a ramp-up champion, therefore initially you will not see any kind of like great numbers happening, but then later on towards the end of the fight, even though these Alliance Quest fights aren't like quite long enough to ramp up a Carnage properly, but he still does great. I absolutely love the guy, and he's so fun to play. He has power gain, unblockable, savage special attacks, lots of debuffs, lots of buffs. It's kind of like very simple, very fun champion with great animations, and yeah, I use him whenever I get the chance. Now, so I use Carnage for the first two fights. For this Modok, because he's kind of tricky, I will use Nick Fury. Because Nick Fury does work well against Modok, even if you do not gain any power. If I could potentially gain power, obviously it would be easier. However, even if you don't gain any power, Nick Fury actually has a safeguard against auto-blocking champions, and I think that perhaps not everybody knows that about Nick Fury, but if he would get auto-blocked, then he goes stun immune for that attack, and you also inflict a bleed on opponent. So if opponent auto-blocks you, then you have nothing to worry about, even if it's like an alliance war, because they won't be able to parry you, which is kind of cool thing. I think it's one of those kind of like unsung hero abilities of a champion, which is actually super useful, but most people might not be aware of it. So yeah, either way, the Modok went down relatively smoothly. Now that is it for kind of like my day one participation. Now this is already the next morning. Some of the fights here are going to be quite sloppy, because I do tend to do these earlier than I should. I do tend to do these like within 15 to 25 minutes of waking up, while I'm still kind of like groggy. So here we can see that that Nick Fury away synergy with Quake already saved me once. Now obviously you don't need to have that synergy. It just kind of worked out that I like to use Nick Fury specifically for a void that I'm about to take, because that void is absolutely brutal with the counter tactics, with yeah, well, it's mainly the counter tactics, and whenever, if he does happen to place a debuff on you, or if you happen to gain any debuff for any reason whatsoever, you just take absolutely brutal amounts of damage. And that void is kind of like one of the bigger problem fights in my entire Alliance Quest run typically. So I wanted Nick Fury specifically kind of for that fight. I bought in Quake for the mini bosses and bosses, and then the third slot was simply whoever I kind of wanted to bring in, whoever would I find fun, I suppose. Now this fight is actually going to be quite sloppy. I'm going to make some mistakes here, which actually will not work out too bad, because counter tactics obviously give opponents attack increase based on your combo meter. But if you get hit and your combo meter gets reset, then they do not get any attack boost. And in like an average fight, if he had placed that debuff on me and I wouldn't have gotten hit, that Nick Fury would have been pretty much dead already. I have seen my champion lose health within 5 ticks. And yeah, this void can be so nasty, but ironically actually getting hit in the face is a decent way how to mitigate damage in this fight. But yeah, here you can see that Void is on like 1% health. I just need to land one more hit. I did lose the life model decoy, but that's quite alright. I'm not too bothered about that. Don't really need Nick Fury for anything in particular, but it's obviously always helpful to have the guy. Now I'm going to be taking this Angela linked. Now the link obviously does give Angela 300% attack and health, and on top of counter tactics. Yeah, the base point is if I were to get hit, it would hurt a lot. And the other link is Distract, means I have to have at least 3 debuffs on opponent in order to do damage. Now, unfortunately, there will be separate times when I will lose my debuffs here. At this point as well, my bleeds actually expired, and I didn't notice it at first. And it doesn't happen too often whilst you're playing like relatively aggressively, but it does happen from time to time. So here I was quite fortunate enough to space myself well enough to counter her special attack with my heavy attack, which let me reapply the bleed, and now I can start dealing damage once again. But it's not like I lost all the progress in this fight, because you also get those cruelty buffs for every 10 hits on your combo meter, and Carnage must combo quickly, and plus I get all the precision and fury buffs from Carnage's natural abilities. So at this point I'm honestly hitting like an absolute tank because of that node combination, because of Carnage's build up on damage. And as soon as I get 3 debuffs, which I do extremely easily, kind of like midway through every single combo, and then I drop a level 1, and we can see that she's absolutely melting away there. Still have a minute and a half left, which isn't bad for like a linked fight at all. Now we're going to be going up against Venom. Venom's not going to be linked, but I'm also going to tackle that Wolverine with a link up for no good reason. There was literally no reason to do so, but why not? I was feeling confident. I was feeling like I'm having fun. Now here was the problem though. Parry curse obviously shortens my stun duration, so I was unable to actually land a heavy attack after a parry. But it all worked out. I did counter his heavy with a heavy of my own. Now at this point I can start getting into like a proper fight rhythm. I'm gonna start dropping my level 1s to build up my buffs with Carnage, build up my combo meters, get those cruelty buffs from the node and hit harder. Managed to do like a dash back intercept, which also gives me a fury buff. We can see that Venom is just melting down here, and it's so satisfying to play Carnage, I must say once more. I know he's not the best champion. I know he's definitely not like the, I don't know, insane champion everybody must have, but I just absolutely enjoy using that guy. Kind of like everything about him, the fact that he applies a lot of debuffs, the fact that he can do a lot of damage, gains many different buffs, have really cool animations, spam special attacks. Special attacks are unblockable, they look savage, man, it's so fun. Anyways, now we're going to be up against Wolverine. That I do get lucky. He could have tried to combo me in Oblivion. That Nick Fury Quake's energy would have saved me, but still I did get lucky. However, here I did miss an intercept, because I'm feeling very daring today for some reason. I do for like a lot of dodgy intercepts or whatnot, and when they do work out, it's obviously great. And yeah, so here you can see nice casual 13 bleeds, 14, 15 bleeds an opponent. At this point we have 19 bleeds, and unfortunately they do fall off, but you can see that they were doing some serious damage. And even though this Wolverine is linked, the fight is over within like 50 seconds. So 50 seconds, Alliance Quest, map 7, linked champion goes down by Carnage. It's just fun. It's great amount of fun. And yeah. So now the last leg of the journey here. I will use Carnage still for some fights as well. And that is What's Yours Is Mine node. And it's actually a very annoying node. Basically is when you place a weakness debuff on opponent, you gain a fury buff. That's a relatively small fury. It doesn't really do too much to your damage output. However, opponent also takes 75% less damage from all sources unless you have that specific fury active. So no other furies count. For instance, if you bring in Hyperion, you get Hyperion, I don't know, land a heavy attack and gain some furies. Those will not remove that kind of like damage reduction. Only when you apply weakness, only when you gain a fury buff by that node, you can actually deal your real damage. And it's a very annoying node. Luckily, if you do not want to dedicate champion slots for this node specifically, you can put Resonate Mastery on, and you have a chance on every hit to apply a small weakness debuff on opponent. And that is exactly how I tackle this lane most of the time, just so I don't have to, I don't know, bring in champions that I wouldn't want to necessarily bring in. And in that way I can kind of like focus on more tricky parts and just use whoever the heck I want. And now this is a Black Panther Civil War with armor node, and that was also the reason why I didn't bring in Carnage. Now I could have brought in Carnage, and the only thing I would have had to do is find an opening other than a parry stun. Like I would have had to heavy counter his heavy or heavy counter his level 1 or something in order to get the first bleed going, because if I tried to stun him, obviously that would be reflected and that wouldn't work out too well. So for this fight, just for kind of like ease of mind, I brought in Nick Fury. Again, I could have used Carnage, but I just figured Nick Fury would get the job done quite a bit easier. And now that I have that weakness debuff, that fury buff active, he melts away again extremely quickly. And I only do have one more fight left in this video, and that's going to be against Wasp. Now Wasp fight is kind of tricky with Carnage, and I will actually get a shock debuff placed on me at some point, but overall it's still going to work out just fine. One thing to note about Wasp is when her away timer is on cooldown, if you start your special attack, it doesn't apply to a heavy attack, but it does apply to special attacks. If you land your first hit of your special attack whilst that await is on cooldown, then she will not await out of it later on either. So we're going to see that in a second. Here we can see that she dropped that special attack. We can see that I hit the first hit of special attack before the cooldown expired, and then the rest of the special attack connected. If you manage to kind of like launch that special attack and connect it before that cooldown expires, the rest of your special attack is also safe and it will not get awaited. But there I got carried away a bit. But yeah, either way, that will also do for today's video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. There's really not too much left. If you did like it, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the buttons. And I'm gonna go and catch you guys soon. See ya.